Hello and welcome to the Promo Perspectives podcast. It's a podcast presented by Sage, dedicated to giving promotional products, suppliers, and distributors tips, tricks, and insights to help them grow their businesses. We've been talking a lot about marketing strategies recently, and today we're going to be talking about how to market with a large team as kind of a counterpoint to the episode we did recently talking about marketing with a very small and limited team. I'm Gabe Gotay, Senior Marketing Coordinator here at Sage, and I'm joined by a very special guest. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, I'm Bille Forman, and I am the Vice President of Marketing here at Sage.
Yeah, Billie has been on the podcast before, but it's been a little while.
Yes, and there was no video at that time. Yes. So I'm new to this.
New and improved Billie on the podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Billie, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about kind of your role at Sage and your history with both Sage in the industry and also marketing in general.
Yeah, sure. So I started at Sage 18 years ago. It was my 18th anniversary last month. And when I started as marketing coordinator and just sort of worked my way up from that. Before Sage, I had a marketing coordinator position at a company that was promotional products adjacent, I guess I would say. So slightly familiar with the industry, but really kind of dove into the promo industry when I started at Sage.
Well, and I do feel like something that Nicole and I talked about on a previous episode, that the principles of marketing, generally speaking, apply across industries, even if some of the specifics are going to be different.
100%. Yes, totally.
So like I said, in the past episode, we had William on, and he talked about what it's like to be in a situation that a lot of our distributor audience members are going to be in, where it's a very small business and their marketing department maybe consists of the owner or one or two people.
Yeah.
And how do you allocate your time and resources? But not every distributor is like that. Mm-hmm. And some of them might have a bigger team, or they might be looking to grow their team. So hopefully we can get some insights into what that looks like, because here at Sage, we've got a pretty diverse team of specialists. We've got copywriters, graphic designers, project managers, our wonderful video producers. So my question for you is kind of what is the advantage of having such a large team, and how does that allow you to approach marketing differently than somebody with more limited scope?
Yeah, it's a good question. And Sage is unique in that we've had a lot of growth over the last 18 years. So when I started at Sage, it was a very, very small marketing team. So I understand the wearing many hats and doing things that maybe you're not very familiar with, but you're going to do them anyways. The great thing about where we are now is that we are able to hire subject matter experts on certain things, which allows us to be just more efficient and produce higher quality work at a faster rate, because you have people who are very specialized. Smaller operations tend to have a marketing generalist who maybe isn't super into doing social media, but they'll do social media, or can work Canva, but isn't a graphic designer. So they can do a lot of the things, but maybe not as effectively or efficiently. A lot of times smaller operations will outsource. And the other big benefit for us is that we have an internal team who knows our brand, who knows what we stand for, who knows the company's goals and visions and what we're trying to do. And so when you're going into a new project, they will already have that base knowledge. And so you don't have to try to get them up to speed and then kind of start the project from there. They already have it. So that's one of the bigger benefits of having a larger team.
Well, and surely it's easier for a professional video producer to learn about our product, services, and market than it is for somebody who knows the product, service, and market to learn all those video production skills.
100%, yes.
So can you kind of give an example of a marketing initiative that really benefited from having such a diverse team of specialized professionals?
Yeah, I think two come to mind. So the first one is this podcast. So in order to do this podcast, you have to be able to do video and audio, and then you have to be able to market it. And there's social media elements to that, and there's copywriting that goes into some of the marketing that we do for this. And so we're basically pulling a bunch of specialists into one project to be able to produce this podcast. And then another one, which most of the industry is going to be super familiar with, is PPAI Expo. We call PPAI Expo our Super Bowl of the year. And so a lot of time and energy goes into Expo and trying to get the best out of it. And it's everything from marketing to our events team, and then even cross-department. So customer experience, our sales team, management, everybody gets involved in various aspects of it because we have so much going on during that 1 week of the year. So that would probably be another one that I think the more people who are capable of doing various elements really helps us get better traction of our time and our money spent at Expo.
Well, and that's probably another benefit of having these people on staff and not outsourcing it, because Expo is something we do every year. Mm-hmm. It's something that's huge in the industry, so you're not having to retrain a contractor on it every single time you need these projects done.
Right, 100%, yes. And we've outsourced things in the past, whether it's video or copywriting and things like that, and you really do lose a lot of the knowledge of who our brand is in the industry and who our industry is, who our customer is. Some of that stuff isn't easily transferable when you're kind of going through the project process. So having a team internally we've really seen a lot of value in that.
And we really do. I mean, like you said, we outsource some things, but it's amazing to me all the things that we do in-house.
I know.
Because I kind of joke that Sage is a large, small to medium-sized business.
Yes.
So we have very much that small business mindset, especially as a software company, where what can we do ourselves? And we have our own printers in here for those kinds of things.
Super unusual for a SaaS company to have their own printers.
But it's a big part of the services that we offer. And to kind of talking about that Expo and the Promo Perspectives projects, in the first episode in this series, I was just talking about general marketing strategies and all of the different marketing channels that are available. So, email marketing, social media, website, paid advertising, all of these things. And in my discussion with William last week, you kind of have to pick and choose which one you're going to do when you have a limited team. But we are able not only to have the industry knowledge by having our own in-house professionals, but because they're so diverse, we can hit all of those channels in the appropriate way.
Yes, we can, which is I'm very grateful for. I think you still have to be able to prioritize really, really well. So the more that you expand your team and expand your goals as a company and as a department, you have so many more projects going on, and being able to prioritize helps you juggle all of those projects, helps you with timelines and deadlines and things like that. So while we don't necessarily always have to pick and choose, it kind of morphs itself into a higher level of prioritization, I would say.
Which is kind of another thing I wanted to talk to you about too, is while it is obviously a big benefit to have this team, it also adds its own layers of complexities, right? And so what are some of those complexities that go into managing a team with such diverse skill sets and keeping up with communication and collaboration and priorities on all of these projects?
Right. So I would say one of the big hurdles that I had in the 18 years that I've been here is that I actually am not a graphic designer. I took one graphic design class in college, and that was it, and I was terrible at it. I don't know how to produce a video, so being able to learn how to speak to creatives in the way that creatives kind of process information has been a learning process for me. The way basically taking our business goals and strategies and thinking and then tailoring that communication into a way that is super relevant to a creative and makes them understand how what they're doing is kind of a direct line from what the strategy is in the industry. So that has been one of the struggles. But I mean, honestly, you're going to kind of get that anywhere because you have different people, different personalities, different communication styles. You can't treat everybody or talk to everybody the same. Everybody processes information differently. So just being cognizant of that and then kind of learning through constant communication has really, I think, helped.
Yeah, and like I said, everybody is different, but there you do tend to see trends in personality types among departments. And I assume, like you were saying, starting off, you've been with Sage for 18 years and you've grown this department since then. I assume before the department grew, there were a lot less of the creative types in the mix here at the office and maybe more of the sales and the development and the customer support types.
Yeah, totally. Our departments within our company have grown pretty dramatically based on our needs over the last 18 years. So it's been very interesting and sort of a learning experience to figure out who you need to hire, when you need to hire them, what type of person you need to bring on board based on the growth that you're seeing. That has been very good learning experience, I think, as a whole.
So beyond just kind of learning the kind of complexities of different personality types and talking to different people, there's also just the complexity of communication with all of these different people. Because when you're a small business, either it's literally just you and you're communicating with yourself and priorities, or maybe you have one or two people in the marketing department you work with and you just talk to them all day. But A, there's over a dozen of us in our department. And B, we work remotely. So what kinds of tools do you utilize to kind of prioritize team cohesion and make sure we're all on the same project goals?
Yeah, so it's tough. I am a huge proponent of having weekly one-on-ones with anybody who's a direct report. And that is a great opportunity to allow people who report to me to just ask me anything that they want, to go over any issues that they're having, to kind of get the lay of the land on where projects stand, and to talk about what's coming down the pipeline. And I think one of the things from there is that I then rely on my managers to kind of do the same thing with their team so that everybody's having these meetings on a regular basis where they're able to communicate and have the time and the ability and the face time to talk about what they want to talk about. Again, going back to personalities, people who are extroverted really don't have a problem talking out in a meeting on a Zoom with 14 people. But if you have some introverts on your team, they might not be comfortable. But if you're in a one-on-one environment, they're a lot more comfortable. So giving them the space to be able to communicate in a way that's comfortable for them has been extremely helpful on our end. Yep, and also just having goals implemented and then also a really solid project management system. The fantastic thing about project management tools or any kind of tools that you have is transparency. So nothing's a secret on our team. Everybody knows what everybody's working on. Everybody can see everybody else's projects. They can also see all of the communication between those projects. And so that really helps with the transparency, but it also really helps if somebody goes on vacation for a week, that somebody else can just pick up where that person left off or something like that. So those are a few tools that we've implemented that have been amazingly helpful.
And those project management tools, they go a long way, not just in terms of being able to organize and set steps in the project and provide transparency, but even the way they're designed it's almost like a gamification.
Yeah.
Which I know is kind of, it applies to general human psychology, but particularly the kind of brains that work in our department, like watching the bright colors go from gray to yellow to green and watch things get checked off. It creates a very satisfying way to keep the team on board and keep things moving.
Yes, it 100% is a experiment on human psychology.
Well, and I know the other thing too, you talked about like working remotely but having weekly one-on-ones. Another thing that we do is we're hybrid, but to pull back the curtain just a little bit if I can, is we are hybrid, at least for our department, is a once a month in the office, which I feel like a lot of companies that are hybrid, the purpose is to have more productivity in the office. I don't think a one day in the month in the office is necessarily as focused on productivity as it is in like team building and cohesion.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. When we came up with that, the thought was may not be the most productive day in the office because a lot of people haven't seen each other for a month and they just want to get caught up and they want to do some water cooler talk with each other. And all of that is also really important to group cohesion and to collaboration and to feel comfortable with your coworkers and to get to know your coworkers. And if you're fully remote, it's really difficult. It's really difficult, especially if you have people who maybe aren't super comfortable talking in front of a group and you have a big group. So I like those days. I get to see people's faces. I get to see what they look like actually as a human being. So yeah, we do one day a month in the office. Yeah.
So far we've mostly kind of been talking about the team as a unit and how do you operate with all these people. But of course, every one of us is an individual person. And you kind of touched on this with the one-on-ones, but what are some of your strategies for fostering individual growth within the company?
So I will do a shout out to a podcast that I listen to fairly regularly called Manager Tools. It's free and it's fantastic managerial advice, really focusing on every type of aspect of managing people and how to handle those types of things. And so if you're looking for advice on how to motivate people or how to do one-on-ones or anything like that, it's a really great tool, and I've learned a lot from it. I think from the point of growth, transparency, I hate to say it again, I feel like it's such a buzzword right now is transparency, but being really transparent with a person, making sure that they understand these are the steps that you need to follow in order to get to the next level. But also a big part of it is, this might kind of sound bad, but just stepping back and letting them do their thing. I think I am not maybe the most creative person in the world, and I know that. And so I'm not going to tell the creative people what to do. I'm going to let them figure that out for themselves. And I think when you allow people the freedom to do that, the people who are motivated to kind of maybe move up in an organization tend to float to the top when you give people the space to be able to make their own mistakes or try something different that we've never done before and stuff like that.
Not to infantilize myself or my coworkers, but it sounds like it's a kind of similar philosophy to parenting.
Yes. It sure is.
Well, but it is, and it's not a bad thing. It is. Yeah. These are the strategies for you got to let your child go out and make their mistakes and prove themselves. And anybody, professional of any age, is going to feel the degree of managerial oversight, and there's a balance that I'm sure has to be reached there.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, you have to lay a foundation and a groundwork. And I guess it's the same thing in parenting. You have to hope and pray that you lay down the right foundation and that they're going to make the right decisions when they do go out into the world. It's kind of the same thing in managing people. That's really funny.
So to go back earlier, something you talked about was you helped grow this department from wearing all the hats to bringing on the people for the specialties that you didn't necessarily have, but you knew that you needed, and how to look for the right people at the right time. So how do you go about doing that? So when you're scaling a marketing team, like, what are crucial roles to consider when? Yeah,
it's hard because it's different for every business depending on where they're seeing growth. So the first thing is never hire somebody unless you already have enough work to keep two people busy. So that's one of them. And then you need to kind of step back and look at where your skill gaps are. So like I said, I could teach myself how to do Canva and do some basic graphic design, but that isn't where my skill set is. And so I know that, and I know that that would be a skills gap for me. And you could also say the same thing with video. You know, anybody can shoot video on their iPhone, but is it a polished, high quality, professional level video? No. But you have to look at what your business goals are, and you also need to see where you've received traction from like your marketing efforts that you've already put into place, and really focus those marketing efforts and where it makes the most sense to put the money. Because in order to hire a person, it's a lot of money to bring somebody on board for the business. So you have to be able to justify that. So it really depends on the business. So if you're a super small company and you're just getting started and you want to hire a marketing person, I would probably recommend a marketing generalist or just a brand marketer who maybe has a lot of different experience in different types of companies. The weird thing about marketing is that it's not the same. It's not a one-size-fits-all type of discipline, I guess you could say. So you have lots of marketing people out there that have a lot of marketing operations experience, which is very different than creative. So marketing operations are going to be people who are really focused on lead generation, really focused on the top of the sales funnel. And that's very different than if you're looking for somebody who's going to do digital marketing for you and be a little bit more creative, and there's going to be copywriting there. So you really have to think about what you want to do. Is your main focus lead generation? Is your main focus customer retention? Is it, you have to look at what your kind of customer portfolio is, figure out what you want to do moving forward, and then hire somebody in that lane, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm sure that the portfolio of the person you hire is going to help inform that, right? Because I'm sure that when you're looking at marketing generalists, somebody that did marketing for a small company might be great for that role because they've dipped their toes into all those waters, but they're what's the jack of all trades but master of none is good for kind of running that kind of thing. But you're going to want somebody with specific video production experience to put on a wonderful show in a studio.
Yeah, exactly. And so just on video, for example, for us, we had somebody on staff as a graphic designer who had some video experience. And so that's how we dabbled in video. And then we outsourced that element and then decided, okay, now it's time that we bring somebody on board full time to do this for us. So it's a gradual process, and it kind of, maybe it's hindsight, but once you look back, it was a very obvious transition, but you don't have to just immediately hire somebody. You can start small, you can start with a contractor, or you can start with a part-time employee and then see where it goes from there. That's always an option too.
So before we kind of move on to wrapping up and last thoughts, I have a bit of a curveball question for you. I know, I'm sorry. But it is something you and I have talked about before on the podcast. It's something that I talked about with William in the last episode. And we're going to be doing a series on it in a couple of months here, which is AI. And I am curious, what role has AI played in your marketing strategies? How have you seen it utilized in different ways among your team, and kind of your thoughts on it in general?
I think honestly, I feel like we probably don't use AI as much as we could as a team, but everyone's kind of diving into it individually in their own discipline. So our graphic designers are using it. So if you look at some of our shout out to Promo Live that's happening October 1st, we have incorporated some images using AI, which has been really great when you're looking for images that are a certain color palette, but you can't find them. So that is a way that we've incorporated it. On our video side, if you're looking for a professionally sounding voiceover, you can use AI voice for that. On our other sides, we have used it to help polish up content every now and then, although we do have copywriters they're fantastic. They don't need AI, but if I'm writing something, I might throw it into AI and polish it up. And I think there's lots of little things that you can do with AI that really just make you more efficient. So if you have an image or a PDF and you just need to pull out all the text from it, you can just upload your image into ChatGPT and it just writes out all the text for you so you don't have to do it. So there's lots of like little tips like that have been really, really helpful along the lines. But I feel like we still haven't touched the surface of what AI could do for us.
And there's a lot to do. And I think part of it, like you said, there's all these little things, because most of the examples there, and I think that's how most people see AI, is kind of just content creation, writing things, creating footage, creating pictures. But, my role is kind of mostly in project management, right? So, and especially since we now have such a good copywriters on staff, I'm not even writing a lot of copy myself, but I still get a lot of use out of AI as like a strategic assistant and a thought organizer.
Yes, 100%. So if I have a high level thought, and it completely depends on what kind of prompting you're using. The more information you give it, the better outcome you're going to receive. And it is a great way to get your brain to kind of, like if you're in a rut or if you're stuck, to kind of get it out of that in a very, very efficient way. There we go. Yeah.
Well, we are going to be doing, audience, if you want some specific education on the Sage AI tools, I know we have a Sage Academy webinar coming up pretty soon. It actually might come up the day this episode comes out. So if you missed it, we're going to have the recording for that. And then I'm going to be doing an episode in a couple of months about kind of general AI use cases. But for today, Billie, I want to thank you for coming on. It was great to kind of get the other side of the coin from the small business, limited marketing resources to what can you do with a larger team. And it was really great to hear your story.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. Are there any maybe final thoughts, maybe a lesson that you've learned that's important to you, or anything else that you want to leave the listeners with?
I think this one, because it's top of mind for me right now, because it's been one of my goals for 2025 is to constantly reevaluate what you're doing as a marketing team. Marketing is always changing. Branding is always changing. Businesses are always evolving. So continue to reevaluate. Just because you've always done something doesn't mean that it's right for today or right for tomorrow. Really look at the data. Look at the ROI of the marketing that you are doing and just consistently reevaluate it. Whether it's, should you keep doing it? Should you increase it? Should you completely change the creative on it? Should you totally change the content? There's lots of different directions you can take it, but to constantly keep reevaluating will only make your marketing better.
I couldn't agree more. Evaluation and iteration.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and head to go.sageworld.com/podcast to find older episodes and register to join us on the next live stream. And we'll see you there.